All right. In Roman custom, a man's birthday was celebrated as the birthday of his genius, sometimes called genius or Jenny, depends on how you want to say it. The ancient Latin was the Jenny. Offerings were made not to oneself, but to one's protective spirit. The person's birthday was the day of the genius attached to the person as his spiritual guide or guardian spirit. The Roman men typically worshiped the god Jenny and the emanation, which was an emanation from Jupiter, and the woman worshipped the goddess Juno, which is the wife of Jupiter, also called sometimes Juno Lucino, and that was a part of their birthday celebrations. Each woman was believed to have a personal tutelary deity called her Juno, which functions similar to a guardian spirit or soul, guiding her throughout life from birth to death. So the men, this is a statue of the male Jinni, unclean spirits. It's actually a guardian spirit they worshipped. Yes, that is a snake coming up behind it. That is a snake wrapped around its right arm with its libation offering it's about to pour out, which was the custom ritual for worshiping their Jinni. And the manifestations of the Jinni, as many ancient peoples talked about, was a form of a snake. If someone was ever enlightened enough to actually see the Jinni in spiritual form, you would see a serpent, which I think is ridiculously obvious. But this was the male statue of the god Jinni, which they then believed was over all the Jinnis that were personally assigned to each man and woman. And again, the female version was called the Juno. And this is the statue of the goddess Juno, who was considered to be the wife of Jupiter. So, guys, Jupiter would be the Roman equivalent to Zeus. So this would be the Roman equivalent to Hera from the Greeks. And Jupiter, as you guys may know, Zeus or Jupiter, we believe and have taught emphatically for years that the Hebrews regarded Zeus or Jupiter as the actual Satan character, the unclean spirit Azazel, who was a rebellious watcher who roams the earth seeking whom he may devour. Every man at Rome had his own genius, whom he worshipped as Sanctissimus Deus. I don't think I said that right, which translates from the Latin as a holy and most holy God, especially on his birthday, with libations of wine, incense, and garlands of flowers. So right off the bat, we're laying the groundwork. The male version was the genius, sometimes called the genie, the Genii. The female version is the Juno or the Juno Lucino. These were guardian spirits assigned to them at birth, and they were considered to be worshipped, especially on the birthday of the person, because that was when the first moment that this guardian spirits would come attached to them. And they were considered, as this Latin quote here, they're considered a holy and most holy God. So, of course, they would offer sacrifices to them on the day of their birth, because that was the anniversary of the day that this quote unquote spiritual God attached to them for their, supposedly for their benefit. But we're talking unclean spirits here. So we're going to read about Socrates and what he thought of his genius, and even what other people thought of his genius. And yeah, so I just want to encourage you guys that I've never seen anyone in my lifetime, no parent has ever taught this practice for their 5-year-old to celebrate his birthday, or for their 75-year-old grandmother to celebrate their birthday. I've never seen anyone connect these practices or allude to these practices or teach. This is, like we've been talking about in this series previously, idolatry. You have to do it purposely. Or you don't get, Yahweh does not hold you guilty for accidental idolatry. You don't accidentally do this stuff anyway that we're about to read. You have to do it with intention, preparation, and planning. You do it on purpose. They also encourage the people to satisfy and care for their genius. And I don't mean satisfy in a sexual way, but to indulge them as far as like, oh, if they're telling you to do something, do it. If they're asking you to give them another libation at some point throughout the year other than your birthday, do it. That's what they were teaching them. A couple different historians that talk about the idea of how the Greeks previously had the concept of the genius, which the Romans adopted. Now, the Greeks had two words for God: theos, which referred to a specific god, and daemon, a noun, which translates to demon in English, or daimonon, a neutered adjective, which referred to an unspecified god or hero who intervenes in human life. The daemon was a mystical superhuman force, the divine unknown, descending from on high and bestowing humans with supernatural gifts, making them daimoni isos, which means equal with demons. Okay, So the concept of the daemon, this is an etymological background for this word. It means an evil spirit, a malignant supernatural being, an incubus, a devil, from the Latin daemon, spirit, from the Greek daimon or daimon, as deity, divine power, lesser god, guiding spirit, tutelary deity, sometimes including souls of the dead. It's one's genius, a lot or fortune from pi daimon, a divider, provider, fortunes and destinies. Is from the root to divide, which is amazing. That's amazing. Yes, it will divide. These demons will divide everything in chaos. So this is from the etymonline.com entry of where this word came from and what it means. Both Homer and Hesiod referenced these demons, or the daemon, in their work, while Homer did not make a distinction between gods and daemons. For Hesiod, the demons were originally heroes of the Golden Age who died out and subsequently became watchers of mortals as their guardian spirits. That should sound familiar to people that watch our channel. So Hesiod, ancient Greek poet, he is literally saying these demons, it's like he's using his words to describe what we see in Genesis, Enoch, and Jubilees about the unclean spirits who were the Nephilim before the flood. They were originally the heroes of the Golden Age who died out, subsequently became watchers of mortals as their guardian spirits. I would think the description of guardian spirit is a propaganda term. We refer to those unclean spirits to whom we are to resist and cast out of people. But this is how they viewed them. They viewed them with a similar origin story from this Golden Age, which was before the flood, when they actually were considered the Nephilim, were embodied upon the earth, but now they're just spirits. Historian Darren M. McMahon mentions also that the followers of Pythagoras claimed that being able to see one's daemon or one's demon was a clear indication of enlightenment. Socrates, the wisest of men, according to the Oracle of Delphi, claimed that an inner guiding voice had spoken to him ever since he was a child, but never told him what to do, but only what not to do. Considerably, in the Greek world, one of the greatest of all philosophers that they consider was this amazing, wise person, and his interpretation of philosophy should have been what, everyone should try to aspire to, that kind of stuff. It's pretty amazing. So he was considered to have a demon with him his whole life. Like, they talked about this openly. Tertullian also mentions this as well, that was still the same understanding in the 2nd century AD. Christians knew what the genius was. They knew it was a demon, an unclean spirit that accompanied people. They knew it gave them false information. They had a core understanding, and we're going to go over some scriptures in a minute where we see New Testament writers had the same understanding. What the Greeks called the demon bore the name genius in ancient Rome. Sources listed below. So in Apologeticum, Tertullian talks about it. Socrates also claims for himself a certain demon, and I do not say a good one, for from childhood it used to turn him away from what was right. So in case you guys, are not putting this together as far as timeline, Socrates, we're talking, 7th century, 8th century BC. So like 1,000 years later, here's Tertullian. It's still well known what the demon, what the genius is, what these unclean guardian spirits are, and why people are doing worship to them on their birthdays, and why they've even made something out of it because they believe these things attached to them once they were born, right? Because they couldn't attach to them previously. They're not born yet, right? So therefore, it's the commemoration of the memorial was when the demon could attach to you once you're actually born. Now, it's so funny because I didn't know what this meant a long time ago. There was this movie when I was a kid, I was in high schooler. I was super into martial arts, and of course, you run into Bruce Lee when you're investigating and learning martial arts as a teenager. And there was this incredible movie that came out like 1992, 93. It was called Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. And it was just kind of like a short little biography about his life and everything. But it wasn't a boring documentary. It was more like an actual movie played upon true events within his life that his wife helped put together for this movie. And but of course, Bruce Lee's dead at that point already. And there's some scenes in the movie when Bruce Lee is like constantly fighting this demon samurai that it's ancient Chinese warrior. It's not technically a samurai, but it's like a giant, twice his size, in what looks like samurai gear, but it's Chinese, and he can't overcome him. And he's periodically has these kind of like visions type episodes throughout the movie, showing that this thing is still with him throughout his childhood and his early life and his adult life, and he's still fighting it when he has his child, Brandon Lee. And there's like towards the denouement of the movie, he's still fighting this in his vision form, like as a dream, like a sweat-filled, tense dream that he's having. He's fighting this big giant demon that is trying to kill him and go after his son, because now his son is born. And so he has to fight it to keep it away from his son, and he overcomes it. And it's like this big monumental concept of him overcoming some kind of fear in his life or whatever, as far as the movie goes. But it's playing upon the ancient Chinese lore of what these were, which is the Chinese version of what we're reading about with the genius or the demon. The Greeks just straight call it the demon. There's a worldwide history of this stuff. And this is not the modern history of birthday celebrations that have adopted over the last 200 years from, I believe, from Germany is where most resources claim that modern inventions of birthday celebrations happen from Germany. So in the 1800s. And the practices that we see for people with birthdays today, just a good-hearted family. We're not talking about some, quinceañera where people are spending $100,000 on their 16-year-old or nothing like that, but just like the basic practice of a good Christian family that just wants to say, hey, you're now 6 years old. Let's get together and bless you and honor you. Or you're now 15 years old. Let's take you out to Chili's and have a burger and, spend some time with you. Oh yeah, and we got you a watch. Hope you like it. Hope your friends like it or whatever. We got you some new shoes. Like, this is nothing compared to what we're reading as far as this ancient practices of worshiping their demons